You know what's exhausting? Running in circles after someone who doesn't even see your worth. It's like being on a treadmill, thinking you're moving forward, but you're stuck in the same spot. That's what chasing the wrong person feels like. It drains your energy, your confidence, and your sense of self. And the worst part, you start believing that this is what love is supposed to feel like. Hard, confusing, full of mixed signals. But let me tell you something, that's not love. That's addiction we chase because we crave validation. We want that person to finally say, "You're the one I want," because deep down we think that their approval will make us whole. But here's the truth. When someone keeps you in a cycle of doubt, inconsistency, and confusion, they are showing you they are not your person. And yet, so many of us ignore the signs because we've invested too much time or because the highs feel so good that we tolerate the lows. Breaking the cycle starts with a brutal truth. The wrong person will never magically become the right one just because you love harder, wait longer, or sacrifice more. Chasing is a game you will never win. The only way to win is to step off the treadmill. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Let's dive into 3 powerful shifts you need to make to stop this cycle for good. The first step to breaking this cycle isn't about forcing yourself to move on or pretending you don't care. It's about seeing the truth clearly, because clarity is what sets you free. Most people stay stuck chasing the wrong person because they refuse to admit they're in a pattern. They romanticize the chase. They convince themselves that the highs and lows are passion, that the anxiety is excitement, and that the distance is a challenge worth fighting for. But if you take a hard look, what you're calling passion is actually uncertainty, what you're calling effort is actually imbalance, and what you're calling love is often just attachment mixed with fear of loss. The truth is, patterns are powerful. They run our lives without us even realizing it. Think about how many times you've told yourself, "This time it'll be different," and yet you end up in the same situation. Same late night waiting for a text, same overthinking after they cancel plans, same internal debate, should I reach out again or wait? This is not coincidence, this is a cycle you've normalized, and until you recognize it, you can't break it. What does that cycle look like? It starts small. You meet someone, you feel the spark, and it feels exciting because it's unpredictable. They give you attention at first, maybe even a lot of attention. That dopamine rush hooks you. Your brain thinks, "This feels good, I want more." Then suddenly they pull back. They're busy, they're distant, they stop texting as much. You feel that panic rise inside you, that sense of what happened. Did I do something wrong? So you chase. You send the text first, you overcompensate. You start working harder to get back what you felt in the beginning. And then, when they give you a little attention again, a compliment, a call, a night together, you feel relief. For a moment, the world feels right. You tell yourself, "See, everything's okay now." But it's not okay, because that moment of relief is short-lived. It's not stability, it's a hit of the drug you've been craving. And then the cycle starts again. They pull away, you panic, you chase, they give you crumbs, you feel relief, over and over like clockwork. And every time you go through it, it reinforces the addiction. You start confusing anxiety with attraction. You start thinking that the emotional roller coaster is proof of how much you care, but what it really proves is that you've become hooked on inconsistency. Here's the dangerous part. This cycle doesn't just waste your time, it reshapes your self-worth. Every time you chase someone who isn't giving you what you deserve, you send a message to yourself, "Their attention matters more than my peace." And over time, that belief becomes your reality. You start measuring your value by how much they validate you, instead of how you feel about yourself. And when that happens, you lose power, you give them control over your emotions. One text can make your day. One silence can ruin your week. That's not love, that's dependency. Now, why do we stay in this pattern even when it hurts? Because of hope. Hope is the most seductive thing in the world. You keep telling yourself, "If I just hold on a little longer, if I just show them how much I care, they'll change." That fantasy keeps you chasing someone who has already shown you their truth. You ignore the red flags because you're addicted to the potential. You're in love with the version of them you see in your head, not the reality in front of you. And let me tell you something about reality. It doesn't lie. If someone is inconsistent, it's not because they're confused about how amazing you are. It's because they either don't want the same things you do, or they're not in a place to give it. But instead of accepting that, you keep running after breadcrumbs, hoping one day they'll bake you the whole loaf. They won't. People rarely change because you love them harder. In fact, the more you chase, the less they value you, because they see that your standards bend when your emotions are involved. The only way out of this is to recognize that the pattern isn't about them, it's about what's happening inside you. You have to ask yourself, why does this feel familiar? Why do I crave people who make me work for love? For many people, it goes back to childhood. If love felt conditional growing up, if you had to earn approval or affection, you'll unconsciously seek out partners who make you feel the same way. Not because it's good for you, but because it feels normal. That's the heartbreaking truth. We often chase what's familiar, not what's healthy. The good news, awareness is your superpower. The moment you start noticing the pattern, you take back control. Next time you feel that urge to text first after they've gone cold, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it feels right, or because I'm afraid of losing them? That single question can change everything, because most of the time the urge to chase comes from fear, not love. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear that if you stop running they'll disappear. But here's the truth. If someone disappears because you stopped chasing, they were never yours to begin with. Think about that for a second. If the only way to keep someone in your life is by constantly proving your worth, is that love? Or a transaction? You don't have to earn real love. Real love is mutual effort, not a one-sided marathon. The person who truly wants you will not make you feel like you have to beg for their time, attention, or affection. They will meet you halfway. They will show up without you pulling teeth to make it happen. Here's what I want you to do. Start observing your behaviors without judgment. Notice the moments you feel the need to chase. Notice how your body reacts. Tight chest, anxious thoughts. Urge to check your phone every 5 minutes. That's not love talking. That's your nervous system on overdrive. The more you recognize those signals, the more power you have to break the cycle. Because breaking the cycle doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens in a series of small choices. Every time you choose to pause instead of chase, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching yourself that your peace matters more than temporary validation. And let me warn you, this will feel uncomfortable at first. When you stop chasing, there will be silence, and that silence will feel unbearable because you're used to chaos. But that silence is also your healing. It's where you learn to sit with your feelings instead of running to someone else to fix them. It's where you start realizing that the person you've been waiting for to make you feel whole has been you all along. The moment you truly understand this, everything changes. You stop obsessing over why they're pulling away and start asking why you've been tolerating someone who can't give you the love you deserve. You stop chasing love and start attracting it, because the energy you carry when you're rooted in self-worth is magnetic. People can feel it. The right person will feel it. And when they come along, you'll recognize the difference immediately, because the right person won't trigger your anxiety. They'll calm it. They won't make you doubt. They'll make you certain. And that certainty will feel like a breath of fresh air after years of running in circles. So the question isn't, how do I get them to choose me? The question is, when am I going to choose myself? If you really want to break this cycle, you have to start asking yourself a question you've probably never asked before. Am I choosing this person, or am I just afraid of losing them? That one question flips everything on its head. Because most of the time when we're caught in the loop of chasing someone, we're not making a choice from strength, we're reacting from fear. We're not thinking, is this what I truly want? We're thinking, what will happen to me if they go? And when fear is running the show, you will tolerate things that don't align with your values. You will settle for breadcrumbs because you've convinced yourself that crumbs are better than nothing. The truth is, most people don't realize they're operating from a place of need instead of choice. Need is desperate. Need says, I can't be okay without you. It whispers in your mind, if I let you go, I'll never find someone like you again. That's the scarcity mindset talking. The belief that love is rare, that people like them are 1 in a million, and that if you lose this person, you've lost your chance at happiness. But here's the reality. Scarcity is an illusion your mind creates when it's afraid. There are billions of people in the world, and even if the chemistry feels intense right now, that doesn't mean it's irreplaceable. Chemistry is easy, connection that feels safe, healthy, and consistent. That's the real goal. When you operate from need, you're willing to bend your boundaries. You ignore red flags. You silence your voice. You settle for late night texts instead of real plans. You tolerate being treated like an option when what you really want is to be a priority. Why? Because your mind is saying, don't rock the boat. If you demand more, they might leave. And so you trade your self-worth for their presence, thinking that's the price of keeping them around. But what you don't realize is that every time you make that trade, you're teaching them how to treat you. You're showing them that they don't need to give you consistency, effort, or commitment, because you'll stick around regardless. Choice, on the other hand, comes from abundance. Choice says, I'm enough with or without you. I want you, but I don't need you. That's powerful. When you operate from that mindset, you don't chase, you assess. You ask, do their actions align with the kind of love I want? Are they showing up in a way that makes me feel valued and respected? And if the answer is no, you walk away, not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself more than you care about convincing someone else to choose you. This shift is life, changing because it flips the dynamic. Instead of begging for someone to pick you, you become the chooser. You become the one who says, if you can't meet me at my standard, that's okay, but you don't get access to me. And let me tell you something, that energy is magnetic. People can sense when you value yourself. They can feel when your happiness isn't tied to their approval. And ironically, the moment you stop needing someone to validate you is the moment people start respecting you more. Because confidence is attractive, self-respect is irresistible, but let's be honest, making that shift isn't easy. If you've spent years defining your worth by how much attention someone gives you, the idea of walking away from someone you want feels impossible. It feels like cutting off your oxygen supply, and that's exactly why you have to do it. Because if someone feels like oxygen, it means you've made them your entire source of life, and no one should ever hold that much power over you. Here's what I want you to understand. Needing someone is different from loving someone. Love is a choice. It's rooted in freedom. It says, I choose you because you add value to my life, not because I can't function without you. Need, on the other hand, is rooted in fear. It says, I choose you because I'm terrified of what life looks like without you. And fear-based choices always lead to pain, because fear will have you clinging to relationships that are hurting you, hoping that holding on tighter will somehow make them better. It won't. All it will do is keep you stuck in cycles of anxiety, confusion, and disappointment. So how do you make the shift from need to choice? It starts with rewiring the questions you ask yourself. Stop asking, do they like me? Do they want me? Those questions put all the power in their hands. Start asking, do I like how I feel when I'm with them? Do I like how they treat me when I'm not in front of them? Do I like the version of myself this relationship brings out? Those questions put the power back where it belongs, with you, because you're not auditioning for their love. You're evaluating whether this person adds peace or chaos to your life. And let me tell you something important. Wanting someone who isn't good for you is normal. You're human, you're wired for connection. And if this person lights up something inside you, it's natural to crave that. But just because you want something doesn't mean it's right for you. There are plenty of things in life that feel good but destroy us in the long run. The wrong person is like sugar. It gives you a rush, but it leaves you empty and craving more. The right person is like nourishment. They fill you up, they sustain you, and they leave you feeling stronger, not weaker. The moment you start choosing instead of needing, everything changes. You stop settling for relationships where you're doing all the work. You stop romanticizing someone's potential and start looking at their reality. You stop believing that love should feel like chasing, and you start believing that love should feel like coming home. That shift doesn't just change your relationships, it changes your life, because when you know your worth, you become unstoppable. You stop chasing people, opportunities, even validation, because you realize that what you've been looking for in other people has been inside you all along. You deserve a love that feels steady, not shaky. A love that makes you feel chosen, not tolerated. A love that doesn't require you to sacrifice your peace for the privilege of being in someone's life. And you can have that, but only if you stop settling for less. So the next time you find yourself clinging to someone who can't give you what you need, remember this. The person who truly values you will never make you beg for love. They'll never make you question where you stand. They'll show up not because you chase them, but because they want to. That's the love you deserve, and it all starts with the moment you decide to choose yourself. At the heart of all this chasing is one truth most people don't want to face. It's not just about them, it's about you. It's about the story you've been telling yourself for years. The reason we run after people who give us so little is because, deep down, we think we deserve so little. We believe, on some unconscious level, that if we just try hard enough, love will finally prove that we're enough. That if we fix them, heal them, or wait for them to choose us, then we'll finally feel worthy. But let me ask you this. How much longer are you willing to fight for someone else's love before you fight for your own? The cycle of chasing isn't powered by their inconsistency. It's fueled by your hunger for validation. When someone pulls away, it triggers something primal inside you. If they leave, it means I'm not good enough. And instead of sitting with that fear, you go to war to silence it. You chase. You text first. You compromise your boundaries. You give them pieces of yourself, hoping they'll finally give you what you need. And when they don't, you blame yourself. You think, maybe I'm not attractive enough. Maybe I said the wrong thing. Maybe I need to try harder. And so the spiral continues, but here's what you need to understand. Their behavior isn't proof of your worth. It's proof of their character. Read that again. Their inability to show up for you consistently has nothing to do with how lovable you are. It has everything to do with their capacity, their priorities, and their choices. Yet most of us make their choices personal. We internalize them as a reflection of who we are. That's why rebuilding self-worth is the ultimate key to breaking this pattern, because when you know your value, you stop bargaining for it. You stop trying to earn what should be freely given. Self-worth isn't just a buzzword. It's a practice. It's built through the decisions you make every single day. The way you talk to yourself, the boundaries you set, the things you say yes and no to. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you chip away at your sense of value. And every time you walk away from what hurts you, you reinforce it. That's why breaking this cycle is less about forgetting them and more about remembering you. So how do you do it? It starts with reclaiming your identity outside of them. When you've been chasing someone for so long, your entire emotional world starts to orbit around them. Their texts, their moods, their attention. It becomes your weather. If they're sunny, you're happy. If they're cold, you're storming inside. That's not love, that's dependency. And the only way to break it is to start building a life that's bigger than them. A life that makes you feel alive without their validation. Start investing in things that remind you who you are outside of romance. Pour into your passions. Spend time with people who see your worth without you having to prove it. Do the things that make you feel proud of yourself. Things that light you up and make you forget to check your phone every 5 minutes. Because every moment you spend feeding your own soul is a moment you take the power back from them. And let's talk about boundaries, because this is where most people sabotage themselves. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're filters to protect what's precious inside you. When you love someone, it's tempting to throw all your boundaries out the window, thinking if I give them everything, they'll stay. But that's not how love works. The more you erase yourself for someone else, the less they respect you, and the less you respect yourself. Boundaries are the ultimate declaration of self-worth. They say, I know what I deserve and I refuse to settle for less. Setting boundaries isn't just about saying no to bad behavior, it's about saying yes to yourself. It's saying yes to peace, yes to respect, yes to the love you actually want. It's choosing discomfort now, like walking away from someone who won't commit over heartbreak later, and yes, that's hard. Walking away from someone you want feels like tearing off your own skin. But you have to remind yourself the pain of letting go is temporary. The pain of staying in a situation that diminishes you, that lasts forever. Here's the part no one tells you. When you start valuing yourself, you will lose people. You'll lose the ones who benefited from your low standards. You'll lose the ones who loved your availability, but not your heart. You'll lose the ones who only wanted the version of you that didn't ask for more. And yes, that will hurt, but you know what hurts more. Losing yourself just to keep someone who was never really yours. Rebuilding self-worth is also about changing the narrative in your head. You have to start replacing the old scripts, the ones that say, I'm not enough unless someone loves me, with new ones that say, I am enough and love is something I share, not something I beg for. That's not easy. It takes conscious effort. It takes catching yourself in those moments of self-doubt and rewriting the story. But every time you do, you're building a new reality, one where you are the source of your worth, not someone else. And let me tell you what happens when you truly do this. When you stop making other people the judge of your value, you become unshakable. You stop tolerating crumbs because you know you're worthy of the whole damn loaf. You stop chasing people because you know the right person will never make you run. You stop feeling anxious when someone pulls away because you know their absence doesn't diminish your value. That's freedom, that's power, that's what happens when you root your worth in yourself instead of someone else. And here's the beautiful part. When you finally love yourself this way, you don't just attract different relationship. You attract a different life. Because people can only love you at the level you love yourself. If you treat yourself like an option, others will too. But if you treat yourself like someone priceless, others will rise to that standard. The love you've been chasing, it starts showing up naturally. Because now, you're no longer sending the world a message of desperation. You're sending it a message of abundance. So ask yourself, what do I need to start doing today to rebuild my sense of worth? Maybe it's walking away from someone who's been stringing you along. Maybe it's saying no to the late night texts and yes to someone who respects your time. Maybe it's investing in yourself, your growth, your passions, your peace, so that love becomes a bonus, not a lifeline. Because, at the end of the day, real love doesn't feel like a battlefield. It doesn't feel like you're constantly fighting for your place in someone's life. Real love feels like partnership. It feels like certainty. It feels like peace, and you will never find that as long as you're chasing people who thrive on keeping you insecure. So stop waiting for someone to choose you and start choosing yourself. Because the most powerful thing you can ever do is love yourself so deeply that you refuse to settle for anything less than the love you deserve. Love should feel safe, certain, and consistent. Not like a gamble where you're putting everything on the table hoping they'll choose you. The person who wants to be with you will make it clear. You won't have to decode messages or question your value. So if you've been chasing the wrong person, it's time to break the cycle, step off the treadmill. Redirect that energy back to yourself, because the right person will never make you run for love. They'll walk with you in it.